Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be creating the Docker container to host our web server. So we already created our Docker file and all the things needed for this to work. So it's time to start defining our service in the Docker compose file so we can create a container from this. So we're going to head to this directory where we have the Docker compose file. We're going to modify this and we're going to create a new service. So I think that you already know how to create services. So let's go ahead and create a new service, which is going to be called web, to keep it simple. And under web, we're going to give it a container name. And that name is going to be, for example, web. And then we're going to define the image. So remember that the image, it's going to be a custom image that we're going to build. So we can call it as we want. Let's call it, for example, Ansible web. And then remember that we want to build this image because it doesn't exist. So we say build and then we specify the context for this and we're going to look for the context. So where is our Docker file located? Remember, from here, if we do an ls Jenkins Ansible, the Docker file is not there. But if we go to the web folder, the Docker file is there. So if we do a cat Jenkins Ansible web Docker file, we're going to have the Nginx Docker file. So this is actually the context where Docker should look for the Docker file. So let's modify our Docker compose file in here and let's add this folder as the context. So now we need to expose some ports because we want to be able to access this service using the Jenkins.local DNS. So we want to expose the port 80 to our 80 port, and that way we can access it from the browser. And finally, we want to join this service to the network net so all of the other services can reach this new service. So this is pretty cool. So let's save this, and now we want to build this new image. So we do a Docker compose build, we hit enter, and as you can see, this entire process is going to be starting. So Docker is going to start installing Nginx, PHP, and doing all of the things that we specify in the Docker file. So this may take a while depending on your internet connection. So I will pause the video and I will come back when it has finished. The process already finished. As you can see, everything was built successfully. So now we can create this service using the Docker compose file. Remember that if we do a Docker ps, we still don't have that service here because we haven't created it. We only built the image for the service. To create a container, we need to do a Docker compose app-d, and then it's going to create the web server right away. So let's wait. Now let's hit Docker ps, and now you're going to see your web server in place. Cool. So remember that we exported the port 80 of the container to our machine. So in this way we can access this server on port 80. So let's go to our browser. Let's hit the Jenkins local and hit the port 80. And then you are going to have an Nginx web server up and running here. This server is cool, don't worry, it's because we don't have an index yet. So let's head to google.com and let's look for the PHP info function. I don't remember how the function is written, so we're going to look for PHP manual. No, I think this is not here. Oh, this is it actually. So we can copy this, and now we're going to exec inside of the web container that we created. And if you read a little bit the configuration files that we created, the root folder for this web server is located on var www.htmls, where typically files are stored in a web server. So in here, we don't have an index, that's why you are having the forbidden error. But if we create an index .php and then we paste the code, we're going to remove this last line, and then we save this. Remember that we're inside of the container, so we're modifying the source code that the web server is serving. If we now go to the Jenkins.local on port 80, we're going to have a nice screen telling us that our PHP installation on Nginx was successful. So cool, our server is ready to start displaying our table. So this is it for this video. I'll see you in the next lesson.